All right, everyone, what's going on? We are live right here, right now, inside Virtual Wholesaling Made Simple. I had to fix my mic. I'm super excited to bring you this elite grudge match here today, on market versus off market. This is something that I get asked a lot. A lot of people are like, Chris, which is better, on market or off market? Should I start, making offers to sellers directly, or should I, be making offers to agents to get deals? What is the best way to go? We're going to be diving into that today, and we're going to be setting you up with the info that you need to be successful in virtual wholesaling in 2024. So I'm going to give it a minute so more people can come on, and we will get things rocking and rolling. And as you're coming on, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to post in the comments where you're watching from. I always like to see, where you guys are watching from. And so that way I can see just, where everyone's coming from, and we can see where you guys are watching from. So go ahead and drop that in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching in the Virtual Wholesaling Made Simple group, go ahead and drop that, and I will start diving in today here. So give me 1 second. We're going to go ahead and get started here in 1 minute. All right, let me do this right here. Okay, so we're going to get that one going. Bear with me for 1 minute. Boom. All right. And as you're coming on, just go ahead and post in the comments where you're watching from. I'd love to see that. Love to see that. Perfect. Okay. Got everything ready here. Okay. Here we go. All right, guys, well, let's go ahead and light this up. I see people are coming on now. Tampa, Florida, fantastic. I love that. Hometown. I see people coming on from Washington, D.C. That's awesome. I love it. Fantastic. Yeah, guys, let's dive in. So, all right. So one of the biggest questions that I get when people, good morning. One of the biggest questions I get when people are asking, what should I do to get wholesale deals? Is it better to work with a realtor, making offers on properties that are publicly listed, or is it better to make offers directly to sellers and do my own marketing? So there's pros and cons of each. And what I want to do, guys, is I want to dive into the most detailed and thorough this versus that on our call today. So that way you can feel comfortable and confident knowing which direction that you like to go and you'd like to dive into. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to share with you at the end what my personal preference is, what I like to do. And you can go ahead and follow my lead. Or, if you find, one of the two is one you may lean more towards during our call today, then you can go ahead and lean towards that. But my goal is to give you the information that you need to be able to make a decision. Okay. So information combined with action makes you unstoppable. Information by itself is just is kind of like a waste, right? So we're going to dive in actionable content here today so you can know exactly what to do. So let's first talk about on market. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about the pros of finding deals on market. Okay. So let's talk about that first. Number one, the first one is there are no marketing costs, right? So that's a huge benefit as far as starting up in wholesaling. You don't really, most people when they first start don't have a ton of money when they're getting started in wholesaling. And so, the benefit here is, again, there's no marketing costs, and you can basically just go find a property on Zillow and make an offer. So that's an obvious benefit, right? That a lot of people like. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one is they're low-hanging fruit, right? So what do I mean by low-hanging fruit? I mean, you don't really have to hop through too many hoops to try and find properties at all. It's pretty simple. If you have access to Zillow, Realtor.com, you can go on there and do a property search of all listed properties, and bam, they're right there in front of you. So very, very simple. Okay, that's also a good thing. Because they are easy to find, right? You can instantly make offers. It takes very little effort to pick up the phone and call a realtor and make an offer on a property, right? So you can do that. So that's also another benefit. Another benefit is that you have high quality photos, right? So when you're working with a realtor, or you're making an offer on a property, you're getting ready to make an offer on a property, there are already photos about the property online. So you can check them out and get a really good feel of the condition of the property when you're getting ready to make your offer. So that's also a plus, right? A detailed description of the properties. So you don't have to rely on the seller for a description of the property. You know, you're working directly with the realtor. You're seeing the listing, and you can get a good feel about the overall condition of the property and anything that you need to know about the property before you even have a conversation. So that's also a positive thing. Another positive is the owner wants to sell, right? The owner wants to sell. So that's a good situation, because there's no doubt if a property is listed with an owner that he or she is wanting to sell. Love it. Sharon, Aurora, Illinois. Love it. Good. Welcome to the call today. Welcome. So you have an owner who wants to sell, right? So there's no mystery there. So there's no convincing them to sell. They want to sell, right? Shouldn't be convincing sellers anyway, but I'm just saying that they're a seller that wants to sell because the property's already listed. The next benefit here is there's no delays in getting a clear title, right? What does clear title mean? Sometimes when you're working with a seller off market, and so it's a private owner of a property, there's no realtor involved. That's just what off market means. You're working with the seller directly. Basically, sometimes there can be title issues. What are title issues? There can be liens against the property. There can be legal situations that need to be resolved so the seller can actually sell the property, which can cause delays, right? So the good thing about on-market properties is there's no delays with getting a clear title. Properties cannot be listed with a realtor and posted publicly on the multiple listing service unless the property has clear title. Okay, so that's also another benefit. The last benefit here of on market is properties can take longer to sell for the owner, so they can be motivated. So in the environment we're in right now, it's taking properties 60, 90 days or more to sell. So property owners can be more motivated and more open to discussion about a reduction in price, right? So those are the benefits. All right. So now that you guys have the benefits, let's go ahead and talk about the cons of on market. All right, because I want to make sure you guys have a clear and accurate picture of both of these. Okay, so the on market cons. Okay, so lots of time spent combing through listings to find deals. I find that most people don't talk about this. People are like, oh, it's so easy. Just go online and find properties and make offers, right? And the most quote unquote deals that you're going to come across are going to be complete garbage. They're going to be way overpriced, and the seller's asking for the sun, moon, and stars. And so what you're really doing here is you're looking for a diamond in the rough. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for, out of the, 20, 30, 40, 50 listings, that one that is actually a good deal where the seller is accepting of an offer and willing to move forward, right? Another con is that there's a low barrier to entry, meaning it's easy access, okay? Anybody who says, I'm a wholesaler, can come into the business, they can go on Zillow, and they can make offers on market property, right? Which means high competition. So the easier a list is, or the easier a seller is to get access to, the higher the competition, okay? So everyone has access to the same opportunity. You're not the only one negotiating with the seller. You could find this listing and making an offer, but guess what? Maybe 5 other people are making an offer too. So that is also kind of a downside, because it's an environment of like instant competition, right? The next con is you need to make a lot of offers to get one accepted, and most people are not willing to do this. So you need to make a minimum of 20 offers a week. There's lots of paperwork, and it can be very time consuming. You're using the state approved as is purchase agreement. So those agreements are like 15 pages long, and a realtor typically will fill this out and send it to you, but still you got to go through, sign everything. And it can be a bit of a headache with each of those, right? I remember back in the REO days, back when the first market crash, Heather and I were making offers on market properties, REO. So REO is real estate owned or a bank owned property. I remember having a manila folder thick full of offers, and we were just getting started. So we really didn't know what we were doing. And we made 50 offers roughly a week, and none of them got accepted. So we were like, dang it, man, all that time, energy, and effort, and nothing got accepted. But, that's one of the reasons why we transitioned to off market, and we started going in that direction. Because again, it's a lot of work and effort. You got to find an agent that really understands the wholesale process and understands that you're going to make a lot of offers to get only a few accepted, right? So that's really important. Because of that, it's very hard to automate or streamline. Okay, so if you have a process down, let's say you do your first deal, and then you're trying to automate this or streamline, put somebody else in place to do this for you, it's very tough because there's a lot of moving parts. So it's a lot harder to automate that process than it is with off market, right? And some people will say, but Chris, I got this amazing AI tool where I can click a button and it communicates all on its own and stuff like that. I'd really like to know the back end of that, of how effective that is. I haven't seen it too effective. This is a people business, and it's really hard to automate communication when you're dealing with people, right? So it's very hard to automate or streamline. Okay, so the next con here of on market is due to the competition and the cost of sale. Okay, so give an example. Sellers have to deal with realtor commissions. They have to deal with closing costs. They have to deal with seller concessions, which is mean a buyer may say, hey, I'll buy your property after they're under contract, but I need $10,000 off the price because of these repairs outlined here, right? So, so that being the case, since the owners need to collect higher prices, the average assignment fee I find is like $10,000 or less, and the majority of them are less from what I found. Okay, so it's hard to make large spreads, right? High EMDs. What's an EMD? Earnest money deposit. So whenever you make an offer to a property that's listed with a realtor, and that realtor says, yes, you know, we're going to accept your offer, you know, typically what they want is 1% of the purchase price. So if you have a property, you know, that you're making an offer on, and let's say that property is $300,000, okay? Let's call it 300,000 times 1%. You're going to have to put down $3,000. All right. Most people, I believe my math is right on that, times 1%. Yep. Boom. $3,000. Most people are really turned off by that because, you know, they don't have that type of money just laying around to be able to do that on multiple properties. Okay. And you can really, it's really easy to lose money if you're not careful. And there's zero flexibility there. What do I mean by that? Give an example. You make an offer to a seller, they accept, fantastic, with it's listed with a realtor. The realtor accepts your offer. You put down your $3,000, and you have they negotiate hard back and forth on the inspection period, so the time that you have to get that property sold to another buyer. And let's say they agree to 10 days with you, right? So you go out there for those 10 days, and maybe something comes up on day 10, right? So you're on day 11 and you just forgot, right? You're like, oh shoot, I missed my deadline there. I'm finished with my inspection period. Your deposit does what's called going hard. Okay. And when your deposit goes hard, guess what? It's non-refundable. So you can't get that money back. So even if you miss it by an hour, 2 hours, a few minutes, a day, your deposit's gone hard and you lose that money, right? So it's very tough. And it's easy to lose money as you grow because you have multiple sticks in the fire, multiple properties. You're making offers on all these other properties. And so it can be very easy to lose money. I know people that have lost a lot of money on earnest money deposits going through realtors. And the sad thing is a lot of these realtors, they know it. So they can sense that you're new or brand new. What they're going to do is they're going to structure the terms that benefit them, and is the highest chance of you losing your EMD if you don't perform, right? Because they're like, I need to compensate my seller if I waste this time, because if you back out, it makes them look bad. And so they're going to make sure you feel it, right? So be aware of that, okay? Even if you have somebody else that says, hey, I'll fund your EMDs for you. There's a new service out there that I've seen people doing where they're doing lending on earnest money deposits. Guess what? If you go past your inspection period, right, you can still lose their money and they're going to come knocking, right? Breaking some kneecaps and all that. I'm kidding. But you just got to be careful with that, okay? Next, minimal flexibility on the inspection period and terms. As a wholesaler, our time to sell the deals is the inspection period, right? And so you need maximum flexibility if you're just starting out. So you need a minimum of like 15 business days starting out if you are brand new, no buyers list, and so on, right? But the issue is here is in a competitive market, most realtors really want to negotiate that down. And so they're like, if you're paying cash, you should be able to close quick. So let's do, 5 days or 10 days. And then you're really under the gun stressed to make sure you can get that property sold during that period in time. So So that's a big one, right? So when you're just getting started brand new, you need lots of flexibility on the EMD, the earnest money deposit. You need lots of flexibility on the timeline to find a buyer, the inspection period. And if you're following the virtual wholesaling made simple method, the virtual selling made simple way, you know FYBF, find your buyer first, right? But even regardless, when you're just getting started, you need flexibility during the inspection period and the terms, okay? So that being said, this can be another downside to on market. Another downside to on market is negotiating with a third party rather than the seller directly. You're always going to be able to get a better deal when you're negotiating with the seller directly. Always, hands down, I don't care what anybody says. It's the difference between negotiating with a non-professional versus a professional, okay? So I love that reason for off market, but for on market, a con, like I said, is you're negotiating with a third party rather than the seller directly. Okay. The next one, minimal flexibility with showings. Okay. So what happens when you need to show that property to a buyer? So you have minimal flexibility with showings. And in most cases, you'll need to show the properties to buyers with the realtor at the property, which can be very awkward, right? So you're gonna have to explain to them what you're doing, and it can be awkward. They may turn them off and so on. And so it's a bigger risk for things that go sideways. Another downside here is the owners typically want to use their own title company, and they may not be investor friendly. Okay, so this is a big one. Right. So as a wholesaler, we need to work with, we only want to work with title companies who are and closing attorneys who are very familiar with working with wholesalers. Okay. So let me back up for a second. You may say, Chris, what's a title company? A title company is there. Well, first of all, let me back up one more time. There are two types of states, depending on where you're located in the United States. There are title states and there are attorney states. Okay. So title states, they require, in order to sell real estate from one person to another, to transfer that ownership from one person to another, you need to use a third-party company called a title company. And what they do is they handle the sale of the property. So once you have a signed agreement with the seller, a signed agreement with a buyer, you hand those into them, and they will make sure the ownership transfers from the current owner to your buyer and make sure that everything is taken care of, right? Some states require an attorney to do that. If you're an attorney state, it's very easy to figure out what type of state you're in by going to Google and typing in attorney state versus title state, right? And you should see an article pop up with states where you can tell which one that you're in. So again, minimal flexibility with showings. Owners typically want to use their own title company. It may not be investor friendly. And what may happen is they may tell the seller that you're trying to do something that you shouldn't be doing with their property, which is not the case. It's just their lack of knowledge. They don't understand. And that may spook the seller, cause a few issues. And you really just don't want to go down that road, right? So what I recommend is always using your own title company, right? Title company you've personally vetted that has said that they are familiar with working with wholesalers. They understand how those transactions go, so they can make sure things go smoothly. All right. Let's hit this other one here, right? So another con, renegotiations can be harder, less flexibility. So let's say you have a buyer that says, hey, I see you're offering this property 140. Here's the thing. I'm only going to be able to pay 135 for it, right? Based on my numbers. And that's the highest and best offer you got. You can't, get them up or anything like that. You have a contract price with a seller at 140. He wants to buy it for $5,000 less than the price you agreed to with the seller. What happens then? Typically, what you would do in an off-market transaction is you would just negotiate with the seller that amount down and then kind of go from there, right? But in an on-market transaction like this, there's less flexibility. They could say, okay, you can't move forward within the, with the price we agreed with. We're just going to move on to somebody else, right? So less flexibility there, and they will negotiate hard. That realtor will negotiate hard to defend their client and make sure that they get as much money as possible. So, which means the least amount of money for you, right? So not exactly the best. The next one here is there's not as much inventory, right? So you got to cast a wide net to do deals consistently. So you can't just focus on one territory. You have to focus on learning multiple areas all at the same time, growing a large cash buyers list all at once. And you're learning these new areas, so it can be a little bit tough because you're having to learn multiple areas at the same time. So that can be a big one because inventory as an all-time low right now And with inventory being low, okay, housing inventory being low, the amount of houses that are listed on the market, because that amount is low, the issue that you're going to find is you may only find, one property every 2 weeks or so that you find that you may get an offer accepted, possibly not. So that being said, depending on your area, you may have to pop out into a bigger area and expand your reach there a little bit, right? So it really requires you to scale out fast. Another con here, guys, is standardized purchase agreements, okay? What does that mean? So as the wholesaler, we like using our simplified purchase agreement, our 2 or 3 page agreement, because it's easier for sellers. We can write them to our benefit and making sure that everybody honors what they agree to. What do I mean by written towards our benefit? Is it one-sided? No and yes, right? No in the sense that the agreement is exactly what we agreed to with the seller. It's agreeing. It's basically honoring our word to them, making sure we're moving forward. What I mean by the one-sided part is if we need to exit the contract during our inspection period, similar to a state-approved agreement, we can exit. There's no penalty to us whatsoever, right? But if the seller wants to cancel the agreement, they need our approval to be able to do so, right? With our wholesaler agreement, right? So that being said, you lose a lot of that protection when it comes to the standardized purchase agreements, okay? Unless you know what terms to put in there. But again, you have to pay an attorney to get those terms to make sure that it's not a turn off for the realtor and everything else, right? And then the last con of on market, okay, is you don't know how much the seller's been offered by others or what it'll take to get the deal. A realtor is not allowed to tell you that, hey, my seller has gotten 5 other offers, right? Here's the highest offer they've gotten. Can you come up by $1,000 and you can beat it? They would lose their license if they did that, right? So they can't do that. So at that point, the realtor's gonna be like, submit your highest and best. And you may be submitting an offer that's $10,000 higher than what the seller would be willing to accept. So you lose a lot of flexibility there, okay? So before I go into that, I know that was a long list. I want you guys to post some of your questions that you have in the comments. I'd love to be able to answer those for you and see if you have any questions of what I've gone over so far. Is this things that you've seen with on-market properties, or have these been some of your concerns with on-market properties? And then we'll dive into the off-market. So go ahead and drop your questions if you have any. And if not, we're just going to keep it moving. The thing is, guys, is you lose a lot of flexibility with on-market, right? Again, there can be some benefits to on-market, as I've outlined in the beginning part of this live here. But the issue is that there's a lot of downsides, and especially if you're brand new, it can be really challenging waters to navigate. So I'd recommend if that was a strategy you were going to pick, you want to make sure you have a coach, someone to guide you that's done it before, and so you know what to expect. But again, there's just a lot more hoops to jump through. And I've seen people that have submitted upwards of 100 offers, right? Multiple people that have submitted upwards of 100 offers online and have not gotten one accepted, right? And then wholesalers start thinking it's them. And so it's really tough. Sharon, you said, I've definitely seen all those. Boom. I know. Ask me how I know this exhaustive list here. I've done this like a lot. And so these are all the things I've come across, and I find most people come across these. Sharon says that she's seen all of these. I'm not making this stuff up, guys. This is legit what it is. Diana says, do most of the properties that are on market you want to wholesale in distressed condition? Oh, I love that. It's a great question. So let me answer that. So let me share your question here. Do most of the properties that are on market you want to wholesale in distressed condition? So that's the thing. Some of them are, okay? A lot of them are not. And what you're going to find that the ones that are in distressed condition are in really distressed condition, okay? Like really distressed. And there's going to be things that, I mean, the realtor has to disclose everything, right? But there's going to be things that you're not going to be able to see online because you don't have communication with the seller, and you're just going to have to be experienced and know what questions to ask to make sure that you're put in the best position there to make the best offer, okay? The other question you had here, what would make you a wholesaler want to wholesale a house that may not have too much meat on the bone? What would make a wholesaler want to wholesale? Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. So that's the other part of this too, guys. There are times where you may only have a $5,000 fee, and to someone brand new, they may be like, holy cow, a $5,000 fee, that's amazing. Or a $2,000 fee, it's amazing, right? But as you do this more and more, you start to realize that the $5,000 fees are the ones you have to work the hardest for. And so sometimes it's not worth it to do. But again, if it's your first deal, I made $4,000 on my first one. So definitely recommend that. But the issue is here is that if you don't have much meat on the bone and the seller was really difficult to negotiate with, or the realtor difficult to negotiate with, and you're close with the buyer and making it happen, like sometimes they're not willing to go down, and at that point you can lose the deal. So you'll see eventually, right? You'll see eventually. Again, this business is up and down as far as how much you're going to make. There are some deals you're going to make $2,000 on, some you're going to make $5,000, some you're going to make $15,000, some you make $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, not on market. But at the end of the day, it's about your average, right? So that's what's the most important, is your average. Getting the first one is just about getting your first deal done, right? And then after you get your first deal done, then you can start to shoot for the sky a little bit, right? So let's go ahead and dive in here. So I'm not sure what that abbreviation is. Riley, okay, let's see. I know no, right? I know that, but I don't know what the first two are. Love the enthusiasm, regardless. So guys, let's go ahead and we're going to dive into the off-market pros. Okay, so I know, right? Yep. Yeah, 100%. Let's go ahead and dive into the off-market pros, the moment you've all been waiting for. So, all right, so some pros of off-market. These properties are not listed publicly, okay? That is a huge, huge benefit. These properties are not listed publicly. So the amount of competition you have on that deal is way less than it is if the property can be seen by everybody, okay? So that's a big one. And you can be really selective of the types of sellers you target, the types of properties, to make sure that every deal that you do is going to be exactly what you're looking for, right? Second pro of on market is sellers don't want to work with realtors, right? These types of sellers do not want to work with realtors. So you don't have really competition there, right? They don't want to pay realtor commissions. And so they're willing to accept lower offers in exchange for not having the costs, not having a lot of the costs that are associated with a typical sale, right? So that's huge. So they're more flexible on the price. You can catch people at the right time before anybody else knows about it. All right. So a lot of times we'll call a seller and they will say, I honestly wasn't really thinking about selling, but now that you've really got that thought process going, talk to me. What are you thinking? I may be open to selling here in the next 90 days. And at that point, you're the first one in. Nobody knows that seller wants to sell. You had a conversation with them. They said, I haven't thought about it. Right. But, maybe, yeah, I'd be open to it. So that's a huge, huge thing, right? Right person, catching the right seller at the right time equals the right situation, right? Easy to find motivated sellers if you know where to look. Okay. So that's a huge benefit. It's easy to find motivated sellers if you know where to look. Okay. So that's a huge benefit. Again, you can be very targeted with these types of situations. Homeowners in pre-foreclosure, homeowners that are facing, maybe they're absentee owners. So it's a landlord that's tired of tenants and toilets and they just want out, right? So you can target specific motivation circumstances to make your chances of the seller saying yes when you reach out to them a lot higher. Sellers are more open to lower offers since there's no cost involved. We hit that one already, but that's a huge benefit, right? So no realtor commissions, no closing costs, anything like that. That's one of the reasons why they're willing to go down much lower. So that's a huge benefit. Another benefit of off market is many great wholesale deals would not qualify to be listed with a realtor, right? So if a property is considered unsafe to go into, it wouldn't qualify. The condition is gross and nasty. Realtors don't want to list that if the house smells like cat pee, that could be a fantastic wholesale deal, but a realtor would not want to list that property for obvious circumstances, right? It has to be safe and easy to show to buyers that a realtor wants to bring to the table. So we have gotten some of our best deals from some of the worst looking houses. All right. So the average assignment fee, from what we have found across the board, is anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 or more. Okay, so that is huge, right? So you can double your assignment fees by talking to the same type of by literally just talking with a seller directly with a seller versus talking directly with a realtor. Okay, so that's a huge benefit. All right, you'll make more money. That's what everybody wants to do, right? You can take your own photos. Okay, so you don't have to worry about if they took photos specifically of the good parts. You can take the good, bad, and the ugly and know what to expect. There are no third-party negotiations. What do I mean by that? There's no one standing between you and the seller. So you're not negotiating with someone who's negotiating with someone else, right? Who may be negotiating with someone else. With a wholesale transaction, you are an off-market. You are negotiating directly with the seller. So you have so much flexibility there. A lot of control. You maintain a lot of control of the transaction there. You can tell if the seller's hesitant when you make them an offer. You can sound if they're super excited about the offer. A lot of times you make an offer to an agent, and that agent will be like, I really don't know if that's something my seller would accept. Let me talk to her and I can get back to you. I think we're going to need to be much higher. But in reality, that seller would be like, holy cow, this thing's been sitting here for 60 days. I need to sell it. And the agent's like, yeah, but I think we can get them up another 5K, right? That doesn't happen with the seller. You're negotiating directly with the seller. You can hear the, wow, really? That's your offer? Fantastic, right? You can hear the hims and the haws, the ups and the downs, so you know how to pivot and handle that conversation. Much easier. Okay. The next positive, so the next pro of on market or off market rather, is sellers are more flexible with the terms, right? So a seller can give you a 30-day inspection period. They can give you they can allow $100 for an earnest money deposit or even less. You know, I've seen people put down $10. We've always just put down $100 on properties, but I've seen people put down $10 on a property, right? So think about that, guys. Putting down $100 versus $3,000. Which would you rather do? Okay. And if you're working with multiple properties, it's a lot less costly. Okay. Another benefit, another pro is since you're relying on the seller's description of the condition of the property, price reductions are much easier. So it's much easier in that situation I gave before, where if you have the property under contract for $150, the seller, you have a buyer come through, said he wants to pay $145, so $5,000 less than your contract price. On an on-market situation, you'd be like pulling your hair out, right? But off-market, you can simply just go to the seller and say, hey, look, you know, there are more repairs that came back than we thought. Tell them exactly what your buyer told you and the reason why he can offer the $5K less than the contract price. And then say for that reason, you know, we need to be $10,000 less. Boom, that creates a $5,000 margin for you. The seller will say yes. In most cases, if they have motivation, and they will move forward. So you're putting deals in your pocket there and money in your pocket, and you could potentially lose that on an on-market transaction. So quick turnaround for most properties, right? A lot of properties can be done within 30 days or less, right? If you work with directly with the seller, in most cases, 30 days or less is totally reasonable and realistic. So quick turnaround. It's easier to grow, right? So if you see that it's taking you 8 offers to get a contract in one area, all you need to do is cast a wider net in that same area and make it to where if you want 2 contracts in a month, you can make 16 offers. So it's very consistent, very predictable, and easier to grow because you don't have to cast such a wide net. You can focus on one area. If you're getting results from one list, pull a second list. If you're getting results in that second list, pull a third list, and so on. So it's much easier to grow and do more deals. Okay. Let's see here. Opportunity. Most people I talk to who are doing on market, they struggle to do a deal a month consistently if they're focusing on one area. And most people I talk to, unless they're casting a huge net, they only do a deal a month or a deal every other month, if that. So again, it's just really hard to grow that, and it's not very predictable because you're basing it not on numbers like you are with off market, where it's like 8 offers to a contract, I have to make X number of phone calls. But on market, it's like if there's an off chance that more inventory comes on the market, or you know, you can get enough offers in based on the inventory that's available. So there's a lot of of variables there, right? So it makes it a little tougher to grow. So off market can be easier to scale. Okay. So here's another benefit, another pro of off market. You have an opportunity to help people that no one else can. I love this, right? Love this. There are situations where a seller just doesn't have enough time to list with a realtor and go through that whole process and the house sit on the market for 60 days, right? And they need to sell their house fast, right? So with that, a wholesaler is a perfect person to work with. You're that perfect person to work with, and you can bring a buyer very quickly that can pay cash to fill in your terms you agree to with the seller so they can move on with their life and avoid a foreclosure, avoid their house going to auction, avoid these negative things, get out of a situation of paying 2 mortgage payments, those types of things, right? So you can really be an answer to prayer for somebody, and I love that with working directly with sellers, okay? Let's see what else here. The owner needs to sell. It's not like they want to sell their properties list on the MLS. They'll sell if they can get the best price. The owners in the off market, they need to sell. Okay. So with the right sellers, okay, they're going to have a situation where they have to sell. There's no other circumstance. If they're facing foreclosure, could lose their property in a month, they got to sell right now, right? So they need to sell, which again is more motivation, which you can get greater discounts and help them at the same time and avoid a foreclosure. So another pro of off market is, again, you can find more deals in one territory so you can go deep and not wide. We've talked about that. Can be more targeted. You could target specific situations, divorce, the seller lives out of the country and he's facing foreclosure on his property that's stateside. A lot of motivation there. He has liens against the property, tired seller of toilets and tenants and wants to get rid of that thing. So that's another big one here. It takes fewer offers to get a deal. I told you before, if you're making on-market offers, you want to make a minimum of 20 offers a week, minimum, right? But with sellers, you're making somewhere around 8-10 offers maybe to get a contract. If you're really good, you can get 6 offers to a contract. So you make fewer offers. And if you're making an offer on market, you have to put paperwork together every single time, right? You can't do verbal offers. They don't take those as seriously. So with off market, you can make verbal offers and you're only putting time into the paperwork to put it together if the seller says yes, right? So that saves you a ton of time, paperwork, and energy. All right. The purchase agreement can be written to protect your position, right? So that way it's very difficult for you to lose money when you have the right paperwork in place and it's written to protect you. Okay. Very, very difficult to lose money in a wholesale transaction. So you have greater flexibility with showings. So sometimes you can even get a lockbox on the property. And guess what? There's no realtor that needs to go with you to the property or oversee the showing with your buyers unless you want them there. But there's no realtor on the seller side, kind of overseeing that. And so you have more flexibility there, right? And then lastly here, the last pro of off market is that you know what you're up against. Most sellers will tell you exactly how much they've been offered from other investors and what it takes to get them to say yes. They'll say something like, yeah, I've been offered 85. So if you can pay 85,000, you can close in 3 weeks and give me a week to hang out at the house and make sure that I get everything out, then yeah, I'll move forward with you. That doesn't happen on market, right? And so the cool thing is if the seller tells you exactly what's needed, you can either move forward with that at the reasonable terms, or you can negotiate those terms, right? So huge, huge opportunity for flexibility. So I've talked about a lot of the pros of off market. It's easy to flip flop those two. This was off market we just shared, right? Let's talk about some of the cons of off market. You have to pay for marketing, right? Which some people don't like doing that. Invest a lot of time in combing through leads to find motivated sellers. Can take a lot of time, right? Dealing with difficult sellers. Sometimes sellers who are not educated will sign a contract with multiple people. Happens, right? We have protections in our purchase agreements, and our coaching clients know exactly what to do in those situations. Sellers can change their minds after contracting. We've had certain sellers basically say, I want to sell. We sign with them. And then they go ghost for a while and they come back. They say they don't want to sell. But guess what? We're protected in our contract, right? So that is not usually an issue. You can get people to come around pretty quickly. Sometimes there are title issues. So legal issues of the property. So deals can take longer to close. if a seller inherited a house, but the property is still in their mother's estate who passed away, it can take anywhere from 3 to 6 months to get that deal closed. But those are very niche circumstances that you will only come across most cases if you're targeting that specific niche circumstance, right? Lastly, sellers may need more handholding, right? They don't have a realtor involved, so they need your help, right? But we're happy to do that. And then properties may be in worse condition, or sellers may not be upfront about the condition. This all works to our benefit, because if the condition is in a different condition than what the seller told us, we can go back and we can always get a reduction in price that lines more so with the condition of the property and what it's valued at in its current condition. So guys, that's the off-market cons. So what we've gone through is we've gone through the on-market pros, right? The on-market cons, the off-market pros and cons. I really wanted to make this a very thorough list for you guys, so you could know exactly what to expect and know which choice that you like to make. So based on that, go ahead and drop in the comments what I've shared here. Which one would you rather do, on-market or off-market? And then I'll share what mine is that I'd like to do. Sharon says that's huge. Yes, it is. Diana says off market for the win. That's what I'm talking about. Howard Scarrett says off market, off market, off market. Love that. Love that. Yep. 100%. It's a no-brainer, guys. It really is. You'll put in less work in a lot of ways, and you will actually, you will actually, let me find what's showing here. Hide. Here we go. You'll put in less work in a lot of ways, and you'll find you'll actually make more traction and progress, and it's easier to track. Diana says, oh, probably both. Yep. So you can target both if you want. I recommend picking one though. So if you haven't gotten your first deal yet, I recommend picking one and focusing on that one for 12 to 18 months. But what I feel that you're possibly going to find is, after doing on market for a while, you may get frustrated and come back to the heavenly world of off market. Now, guys, you're going to go through difficulty with both of these. But all I can do is guide you in the best way possible. So sharing with you the roadblocks, the obstacles that I've faced myself, and just to give you an insight of day in the life on both strategies, so you can know which works best for you. Diana says, if you have a good hookup with a wholesale friendly realtor, then maybe you can go on. Yep, that's true. If you have a realtor that you establish a relationship with, but the key is here with that. So here's the key. If you have a relationship with a realtor, the key is getting that realtor to send you pocket listings. Okay, so those are off market. So we're going off market again, right? Off market deals, right? Off market deals that have not been listed publicly. So those can be very good. So I recommend you focus on off market. And if you establish some relationships with realtors along the way, that can get you an off market deal, right? Pocket listing, bam, make it happen. Sharon says, we got our first and only deal from a pocket list from a realtor. Hey, again, don't underestimate that. Build relationships. It's a relationship and a people business, right? So, So what I'd like to do is share with you guys too, our method that we're using to reach out to sellers, because I feel like this could really help. We're right at the 45-minute mark here, so we're going to get scooting here in a minute. But what I'd like to do is share with you the method that we use to find sellers off market that can be really helpful for you guys. So for those of you who don't know, the main strategy that I focus on and all my clients focus on for getting deals is cold calling, right? So I have a special offer for you guys here that I'll just put in the comments section. And we use Batch Dialer for our dialer. And if you use this link and my coupon code, it's kind of all jumbled together there. But you can get 600 free minutes, a 7-day free trial, and 50% off your first month with that. So that's what we use. We download our lists from PropStream, and we upload them directly into Batch Dialer, and we make calls. And that's exactly what we do. So that's what I recommend for you all to do if that's how you're going to get your first deal off market. It keeps expenses low, and at the same time, it allows you to contact a lot of sellers and cast a wide net for them. So that's what I really recommend. And by the way, guys, if you guys would like to get the results that we're getting and our coaching clients are getting, and you would like to take next steps, then what I'd recommend doing is applying for coaching. I'm also going to put my link for coaching here in the comments section. What I'd encourage you to do is fill out the application, be detailed in your responses, because I don't take on everybody. And if I like what you have to say, I'll consider bringing you on as a client. So I'm going to put this in the comments section here. Boom. So go ahead and apply, and I'll look forward to connecting with you. So before we wrap it up here, does anybody have any questions? Does anyone have any questions about or anything about what we talked about today, or anything related to what we're talking about? Okay, so someone just said here. Okay, still it's been 2 months with constant grinding. Yep, guys, your first deal that you're going to get is the hardest deal to get. And the reason I say that is because, and I know that you said you got one from a realtor, but when you're getting your first deal off market, that the first one's always the hardest to get. But for some reason, after you get the first one, the second one comes right around the corner. So, and a large portion of that is because you've built up a pipeline of sellers who maybe weren't ready to sell at one point, but now they're ready. And so by the time your second deal comes around, typically some of those people are ready and you can get that next deal. So trust me, it's worth it. Put in the time, make it happen, and just keep taking steps forward every day. That's all you can control. Control the controllable. Focus on what you can control, and that's it, right? Okay, so let's see here. What do you think of PropWire for pulling lists here? Okay, so PropWire can be a great source, right? Because it's free. Very similar to PropStream, but I found the data and that is not as accurate as PropStream is. So you can check out PropStream, go to getpropstreamnow.com and get a free trial. If you'd like to check that out, I'll post a link here so you guys can see that. Boom, getpropstreamnow.com, get a 7-day free trial. But the PropWire, I mean, you know, if that's all you can do with your budget, then yeah. I do think there are some lists on PropWire that can be good. There's one on there that I saw that that is a great list. It's called the $100 sales, I believe, or something like that. That's mainly an inherited list, or if someone transfers ownership from one property to from one family member to the next, or from one person to another. And those can be great because obviously they transferred it for a reason. So that can be a really great list. But again, if it comes down to your marketing budget, if you're tight on cost, then PropWire can be good. But I recommend getting PropStream once you get into a position to be able to do that. Let's see. Dinah says, now get some water. You'll probably go hoarse from all your talking. Got it right here. Actually, I'm out. So I got to go get some lunch here in a minute. Let's see. Sharon says that makes sense. Yep. Cool. Any final questions, guys? What did you think about the comparison between the two? Do you feel like it was really informative? It kind of helps you make a decision as far as which one that you guys would rather do. Boom. Seeing those comments come through. I love it. Love it. Thank you. Very informative. Love it. Okay, guys. Really valuable as always. Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Glad you got value there. Very informative. Boom. Good comparison. Yeah, guys, this is the most complete comparison that you're ever going to find on the internet, right? Hands down. So if you were going to do a YouTube search and look for a comparison, I guarantee you they're not as good as mine. So anyway, all right, guys. I hope you all have a great rest of your day today. Again, if you'd like to take next steps with coaching, fill out the application and we'll be in touch. And I'll talk to y'all soon. Have a great one, everybody.